if they can run the ball like this and control the clock like they're doing, they can beat any of these talented teams in the NFC if they don't turn the football over.
We got Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We have one of our favorite contributors. He hops into the co-host chair when we need him. He jumps aboard as a guest when we call him. We thank Jeff Kerr for coming aboard. JK, where were you watching last night's Eagles game?
So I didn't actually get to watch the first 3 quarters of the game. I got home from the basketball team I coach. I got home around the 4th quarter. So I stayed up till about 3, 4 in the morning rewatching the football game. And yeah, the first quarter was pretty ugly, but after that, they just seemed to dominate. It was a very impressive win for
them. What do you take from Nick Sirianni, coach to coach, Jeff Kerr?
Ooh, I'll tell you what. I love the whole Darius Slay coming in on offense there a little bit.
Yeah, how about that? I said Darius. I got fined when I asked Nick Sirianni about that.
What did he tell you to call him? Big Play Slay?
Yeah, Slay. Well, everybody. That's my fault. Slay always corrects you. If you say Darius, he says Slay. He doesn't like to be called Darius. So that was my fault.
Oh, I hear that too. I'm usually called Kerr instead of Jeff or whatever.
He wants to be called Slay. Darius. Darius.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what. I really like how Nick Sirianni ran a lot of 21 personnel last night, did a little bit of 13 personnel, mixed that in there. I love how he embraces this as a running football team. We can run the football, and let's see if you can stop us. And Washington just had no answer for that team. I can't believe people were so up in arms about the Eagles getting that game.
I can't believe it. I don't understand it. I don't. Nobody was trying to screw them. It wasn't anything of that nature. It's not an optimal circumstance, but guess what? The opponent was. Look at the more important part was, once 2:30 came around and you knew, and as Jody points out, Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen it's not Montana and Young either. But then when you ruled them out, and you got to go with Garrett Gilbert or Gilbert Gottfried or who's eating Gilbert Grape or what else do you want? I mean, I said it all week. The ball is on the tee, just hit it. And they were a little rusty, as you said in the first quarter. They made some big mistakes that let Washington get out to a lead, but you could see very early, okay, this team's not going to be able to do much offensively. And if you don't give them a short field, things are going to be fine. And that's how it kind of unfolded.
Yeah, it was kind of like the final score wasn't an indictment of how much the Eagles dominated that game.
No.
It was 2017 in the 4th quarter, and I'm not even worried about it. I'm okay. Well, they can run the ball with this team all day. Jalen Hurts is playing lights out football right now, and I thought the one his touchdown pass to Greg Ward was probably the best throw I've seen him make since really he's become a starting quarterback in the league. I thought it was that impressive, and that is a throw that franchise quarterbacks make.
Throw the franchise quarterbacks make, and a damn good catch by the wide receiver.
It was great by Greg Ward. I
credit on that play.
Greg Ward. I thought you, Jody Mack. As soon as he caught him, Mr. December, Greg Ward.
Everybody does. I think Jody got more congratulations than Greg Ward.
No, not even close. As I told McMullen in the first segment, did you see how many guys came over to high five and dap him after he made that catch on the sidelines? It was a 9-yard game. It wasn't a game-changing play, but he had like 11 teammates come over to congratulate him on the play. He's one of the most popular guys on the team, needs to be more involved in their offense going forward.
By the way,
they want speed at wide receiver. Got to have speed at wide receiver. Well, then why the hell are you running the ball? You know why you're running the ball? Because it's helping you win, and Greg Ward can help you win. Put him out there, Sirianni.
Howie Rose's probably patting himself on the back last night. Jalen Reagor had more yards than Justin Jefferson for the first time since week 1 of last season.
Damn, didn't know that stat.
Yeah.
That's why we bring Kerr on. He's got these great nugget stats for us. Well, and since I'm busting Nick Sirianni's chops a little bit here, 4th quarter, up by 7, 4th and 6. They send out the field goal team. Elliott knocked it through. Offsides, Washington. 4th and 1. You've already established that you can run the ball down their throats almost at will. Your offensive line is dominating the point of attack. You got a quarterback who's already taken it in for 2 touchdowns from 1 yard out. Were you surprised they didn't go for it there to take the points off the board and continue the drive?
Yeah, so I defended Nick Sirianni on this, and maybe this is my version of analytics, but it's so basic. Do you really think Washington can overcome a 2-score deficit?
That's where I was, Jeff.
Yeah. Do you really think they can score 20? Because I didn't mind Nick Sirianni go for that, because if they don't get it, and look, I thought that as bad as the New York Giants are, I thought they'd still be able to get a fourth and inches against the Cowboys, and it didn't happen on Sunday. So I'm thinking, all right, just take the points. This team isn't scoring 20. There's no way they're getting 20. I didn't mind the call.
Yeah, I agree. I was the same point. I said the same thing. Make this 2 scores. And by the way, if you want to nitpick on the defense, I know Jody went the route of the defensive ends who didn't play well. The ensuing drive by Washington, I think that was the worst part of the night for the defense, because the game should have been over. 2 scores, as you mentioned. And then all of a sudden, you had the bad pass interference call on Avonte Maddox, so that was a big part of it. But that's what happens in this league, and that's why it's a concern. So when you say they turn it into 2017, I wasn't concerned. You weren't concerned. But in those types of situations, that's where you want to be as a bad football team, because then if what Montez Sweat does in the first quarter happens in the fourth quarter and you get a weird bounce of the football, you can go steal a game. So a little bit concerning about that particular drive from the defensive perspective, and allowing a dead Washington team back in the game, at least to have some hope. But then the offense picked them up, and that's part of complimentary football. So it still ends up all good, but yeah, that was a bad drive, letting up that Washington team at that point. That was a bad job by that defense,
but
even throwing in that pass interference goal.
And when you said bad pass interference, John, did you mean bad play or bad call?
I didn't see it. I assume it was a good call.
Yeah, it was. Bad. He never saw the ball, and he made contact.
No, I meant bad. Yeah, I meant bad from a perspective of giving it up. In other words, it would be really difficult for Washington to go 80 yards on their own, or whatever that drive. That drive was 69, so it wasn't that far. But either way, it's very hard for them to go the entire field without getting some help, is my point.
Yeah, honestly, John, this is where I think it's been the big conundrum on social media right now. I think there are a lot of people that would agree you take the points there, but like if you saw Thursday night's game, like Brandon Staley was just too over aggressive. I never had a problem with him being aggressive, but I'm like, there are times where you got to kick, and flat out it cost his football team Thursday night. And Nick Sirianni would, he'd be damned if that was going to happen to him. And the Eagles lose this game, they're done. I don't care. They would have been done.
Oh yeah, they all the predictive sites had them under 10%. If they lost that game, I know 538 had them at 5% if they lost the game. So it was a de facto must-win game. And you're right. You bring up Brandon Staley. That's why I've said Nick Sirianni is the better rookie head coach. It's kind of a battle between those two guys. Not that Brandon is bad, but you got to have a feel for the game. That's got to be part of it as well. Now, typically, if I have Justin Herbert, I want to go for it too. But he was a little bit off. If you were watching that game, he wasn't his usual accurate self. You've already failed a couple times. At that point, you say, let's take the points. You got to have a feel for a particular situation on a particular game day. And if your quarterback doesn't have his best stuff, it's like a baseball manager, Jody. You might have the greatest pitcher in the world, but sometimes he doesn't have it, and you got to go about things. You got to grind through it.
Yeah, so there was.
But let me defend Staley here. because I'll use what you guys both just said about the decision Sirianni made last night. You left the points on the board because you're up by 10 points because you don't think Washington can score 2 more times. You want to get up by 2 touchdowns. Guess what? I'm playing against Patrick Mahomes. I need 7s. I need touchdowns.
That's true.
If I'm looking across the field and Mahomes is the other quarterback, I can't settle for field goals. He's going to get touchdowns against me. That's why I didn't have a problem with what Staley did.
And that's why I had a problem with what Nick Sirianni did. I even tweeted about that. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't Washington just sign Garrett Gilbert on Friday? So you really think Garrett Gilbert's going to go down the field? Like, if you're a rational person, you think he's going to go down the field twice on you and they're going to make a stop? Well, the Eagles didn't even make it a debate there. They just went right down the field once Washington May of 2017, and that was the ball game, essentially. But I agree with you, Joey, with the whole Brandon Staley thing because you are going against Patrick Mahomes. I just think sometimes you need to just take those points. I remember I asked him back when the Chargers were in Baltimore. I said, look, I understand you're down 24-6. You're going for a 4th and 3 on your own 19. And he goes, well, you got to understand the situation. And I said, okay, did you understand, you can put all the analytics to me till I'm blue in the face, but you didn't take into account that your quarterback might actually miss an open receiver on 4th and 3. And I think that's where the whole thing – it's like what John said. You got to kind of have a feel for it. And Justin Herbert was off that entire day. So I agree with both you guys on that.
Exactly. And that's what the whole thing's about situations. Jody's right. Typically, we talk about, again, the Eagles won the toss last night. They deferred.
Don't tell me they deferred, John.
Now, they should have deferred last night because they're playing a team that is offensively challenged, and you want the ball in the second half. Now, earlier in the season when they were playing Kansas City, when they were playing Tampa Bay, you don't defer. You should have the football, but too often Nick's hurt, and he's told me, now we're going to defer because everybody wants the Belichick sandwich, so to speak. You want to score at the end of the first half. You want to score at the beginning of the third quarter. And if you do that, game's over. So I get it. But when you're playing a team where you're outmanned, you want to shorten the game, especially now with what the Eagles are, a run-first team. So there's room to go away from the common thinking, so to speak. But you go on analytics, and Jeff is right. No, you got to do this all the time, every time, no matter who you have, no matter who's injured, no matter who's on COVID. And there's both sides that can be right. But in that particular instance, I thought Brandon Staley didn't take into account the quarterback was not having his best day. And this is only after you've failed a couple times. I'm saying at that point, then you say, all right, I got to scale this back. I got to take some points. And in the case of Nick Sirianni, more importantly here, you got to say, okay, they have Garrett Gilbert. I can make this a 2-score game. I don't want to risk Jonathan Allen blowing up a play or Daron Payne and give them any hope. I thought it was the right decision.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. And just because, and again, I think this is the easiest analytic we can predict. And like I said earlier, can this team get 20? And, I do this with basketball. Like, if we're up 45-20 at halftime, I'm starting to think to myself, okay, if we get the 60, this team has to score 35 points in the second half to catch us. And that's just terrible defense. We should be able to score on 8 possessions. So that's how I look at things, like from basketball perspective. And I think Nick looked at that from a football perspective. Can this team score 10 points on 2 possessions? How much time was left on the clock when he kicked, John? I'm trying to remember.
It was the end of the third quarter, so it was the whole fourth quarter, essentially. I think he kicked it with 18 seconds left in the third quarter.
Yeah, so can this team get 10 points on 2 possessions? Or here's a better one. If we keep scoring, they definitely aren't going to catch us. And I think Nick, in a way, trusted his defense and trusted his offense once they got the ball back to go back down the field and score again.
All right, let me run this by both of you two guys. Everyone's got an opinion on where the Eagles sit. We're 15 weeks in, 14 games, 7-7, right on the cusp of a playoff spot. That's the reality of the situation right now. One guy's opinion kind of counts for more than McMullen's, McDonald's, Kerr's, or anybody else's for that matter. How do you think the owner feels about this team right now? The guy who infamously told Doug Peterson, why didn't we pass more against the Green Bay Packers when they had gone into Green Bay and won a game? We know Jeffrey likes the throwing the football in the National Football League in 2021 dynamic and wants to be ahead of the curve rather than behind it. Well, the Eagles are turning back the clock to ground and pound football, and they've got a chance to make the postseason in a transition year. How do you think the owner's feeling about this football team right now?
I mean, honestly, I don't want to speak for Jeffrey Lurie, but
I'm asking you to. That's exactly what I'm asking you. I'm trying to get you into the mind of Jeffrey Lurie.
Oh, how funny would it be though if he went? Say they don't run for like 150 yards, and he'd be like, "Nick, why don't you run the ball more?" Wouldn't that be a 180? But I think he does want to have like this high flying Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert passing offense, but he hired a pretty good head coach here that knows how to adapt to his personnel, said to himself after 6 or so games, you know what? I know this is what the owner wants, but this isn't what's winning us football games. I'm changing the philosophy here, and I'm going to do what I think is best to get this team in contention in a relatively weak conference. And look what they're doing. They're averaging over 200 rushing yards per game since week 8. They are turning back the clock, but it's fun football. For me, this is fun football because this is fun football for me is stop us. This is what we're doing. We are going to have different formations, different personnel. We got a running quarterback. We got an explosive running back. We got a battering ram to go with them. We have the best offensive line in football. Go up front and stop us. And really, no one has done that since Nick Sirianni has run the football. And you got to give credit to Jeff Stoutland, too.
Yeah, you think?
Also, run game coordinator, also with offensive line coach. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, from Jeffrey's perspective, and you have to give Jeffrey a lot of respect, to be honest, because number one, it looks like he got another head coaching hire correct. When a lot of people made fun of him for plucking Nick Sirianni out of relative obscurity, which he's done in the past. And even if you look at, people bring up Chip Kelly, you look at the early years of Chip Kelly, he was successful from a standpoint of winning games and getting the team in the playoffs. Obviously didn't sustain. But I don't think – I think it's a bigger – to both of you guys, I think it's bigger. I think it's sort of an extension of the Jalen Hurts decision. No, he still wants to throw the football. He still thinks that's the way you win consistently in the modern NFL. I think people also have to pump the brakes and realize, okay, this team is better than most people thought. Maybe not Jody and I. We were right here at the beginning of the season, so I'll toot our horns. They're playing meaningful football in the transition year, but they're 7-7. They're a 500 team, and they just got gifted a win by COVID and Garrett Gilbert. So I don't think his long-term philosophy of we need to be the Kansas City Chiefs who win consistently year in and year out, we need to be the New England Patriots with Tom Brady, the high-octane passing offense. That's where you want to get, but I give him credit for letting Nick Sirianni do what he has to do to win on a particular game day. And right now, that's running the football. So it's sort of like the long-term question with Jalen Hurts. I don't think it's as complicated as people think it is. If they can get better in the offseason, they'll try and get better. If they can get Deshaun Watson, if they can get Russell Wilson, they'll try to get Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. If they think Kenny Pickett is a star, future superstar in this league, they'll try to get Kenny Pickett. If they don't and they can't get the proven, they won't. And they'll continue on with Jalen Hurts and try to win games the best way possible. I don't think it's as complicated as people make it out to be. I really don't.
This is what I want to know over. And again, the Baltimore Ravens are kind of proving this theory. Like, you can run the football to the cows come home, but can you win a Super Bowl doing it this way? Like, if I'm just looking at the Indianapolis Colts, for example, what happens when you stop Jonathan Taylor? Is Carson Wentz going to win you a playoff game after what I saw Saturday night? Hell no. So if you somehow stop Miles Sanders, if you stop Jordan Howard, can this quarterback win you a playoff game? I think he can win you a play. I don't know. It's still too early, but I agree.
Yeah, can you win multiple? But can you do it week after week after week?
If Patrick Mahomes was the Eagles quarterback, I'd be like, well, this team's going to the Super Bowl just because they can run the football off anybody. Oh, by the way, they have this shiny toy in Patrick Mahomes. That's what we have to figure out going forward. Can this team win consistently with Jalen Hurts? And he has a chance to do it over these last couple games. I know it's just the NFC East, but it's still meaningful football, and every week's a playoff week for this team.
It is, and yesterday the Eagles and Jalen Hurts answered the call. He threw for almost 300 yards.
Yeah, great.
Where they were running for 200 and change to get 500 yards of offense. Quarterback's got to get a pretty good chunk of change. Certainly the coach does, the play caller does, the offensive line does. A lot of things go into it, and the fact that they had guys on the outside making plays who don't usually make plays, the balance was there like it had not been probably all year long, even though they only got 27 points. All right, I'll be the bad guy. John and I, a couple of guests we've had on in the last couple of weeks, surprised John when we were talking about Gardner Minshew and the game he had, and almost to a man, everybody said, yeah, but it was against the Jets. And as a Jet guy, I got to cop to it. Yeah, they're just a bad football team right now, specifically on the defense side of the ball. Do we have to temper our optimism from last night's Eagles game? Because number one, Washington's not that good a team to begin with. And number two, it was a COVID-ravaged football team. Do we have to kind of pump the brakes a little bit? Because, yeah, they beat a bad football team last night.
I would say they were a bad football team before they were COVID-ravaged. So and look, you got to take your wins any way you can get them in the NFL. Like, they're going to play a Giants team that is you're going to start Mike Glennon, who has the lowest win percentage for any quarterback that's made 25 starts or more in NFL history, which is insane that guy's made 25 starts, but I digress. Or you're going with Jake Fromm, who pretty much is not good either. I mean, the Giants fans are all excited because the guy went like 7 for 12 because Mike Glennon was that bad. You should be able to crush this Giants team on Sunday. And I know the Eagles didn't do that last time, but you got to take the wins where you can get them. I don't care at this point. Get into the playoffs and figure it out. And then we'll worry about, can the Eagles beat the Rams? Or the way the Cardinals are playing, the Eagles might beat them. I don't know. If they can run the ball like this and control the clock like they're doing, they can beat any of these talented teams in the NFC if they don't turn the football over.
Yeah, I think we've seen, this is the year where you just saw Detroit have the worst record beat the team with the best record at the time. And they didn't just beat them. They beat the you-know-what out of them.
Yep. Jody, I'm telling you, man, they're getting better.
Yeah, they
couldn't do that the week before against Denver when I was getting 10.5 points, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I got
the Eagles beat Detroit 44-6, I believe, and they had some injury issues that week as well. Yeah, I mean, they got a break on the schedule. Take advantage of it. I was talking the two teams they're battling with. New Orleans has to play a team that's won 6 straight games. The Vikings have to play a really good Los Angeles Rams team with no corners. Against the best wide receiver in football this year. So you got Jake Fromm probably. So early Christmas, you got one early Christmas gift. Now you're getting spoiled. You're getting 2 over a 5-day span. And I said to Jody, look, they bring their B- game. They're going to win both these games. Forget about A game. And I thought they brought their B game last night because they made too many mistakes early in the first quarter, but they were able to overcome it because of the opponent. If that is a good team, if that is Green Bay, if that is the LA Rams, the Dallas Cowboys, maybe even the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, you're probably not going to recover from those types of mistakes. And that's the difference. So you take advantage of who's on your schedule. It's not the Eagles' fault.
And there's a lot of teams in this NFC. I'm curious to see how this Eagles team would stack up against now, because Tampa Bay was all of a sudden ravaged with injuries. And I
didn't put Tampa Bay in that conversation because of that. I mean, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, who else got hurt there? Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is out. He's week to week. Fournette's out for the rest of the regular. Godwin's done. It's all of a sudden Tom Brady looked like a 44-year-old quarterback against a defense that has his number. They get him off that spot, and it's amazing how this is really a good indicator of Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni just went up and down the field against this defense, and
500.
They put out Tom Brady.
Yeah, 519. That's amazing. Amazing.
You guys aren't thinking Le'Veon Bell to the rescue for the Buccaneers? Okay, well, Le'Veon's kind of bounced around.
I think Rashad Perriman will help that team more than actually, he already has helped that team more than Le'Veon Bell. He brought the winning touchdown.
And Antonio Brown's not getting cut now.
He'll be hugged back into the lineup this week. All right, let's start the quick look ahead. That's the unfortunate thing. And, oh, by the way, John, you tried to eschew all the Eagle fans who complained about last night's game going into last night's game. Oh, they can still complain because you got to turn around and play the Giants on only 5 days rather than 7 days. We'll have to wait till after that game. If they beat the Giants by 2 touchdowns, then you got to completely forget and or repeal all the complaining that you did going into it. This Giants team is just that bad. It doesn't matter that they've got 5 days only to prepare for this team. Last year, you remember Joe Judge complained about the Eagles not giving maximum effort in the final week of the season, so the Giants couldn't their what's into the playoffs. Is Joe Judge going to survive this season for the Giants, Jeff Kerr?
He shouldn't. I mean, what he's doing now is a complete joke. He's trying to, even in his press conferences, he's still going with the same old shtick. We're going to we're going to outwork these guys, and I got to get my punter some reps, and then the next week Justin Herbert shows his punter.
By the way, Jeff, was that a real quote? I meant to look that up.
It actually was. We wanted to get him. I'm paraphrasing it, obviously, but he basically.
No, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, I didn't know if somebody was joking on Twitter.
Oh, no. That was as real as it got. I got to find the transcript. I have it in my email somewhere, but I'm like, oh, my God. He didn't just say it. He gave an explanation of, he was kicking the ball really well. I'm like, did you watch Super Bowl 52? There was one punt. That's a good thing. I don't get Joe Judge. I know you're a special teams coach at heart, but you got to get your punter involved in the game. The only way I want my punter involved in the game is if he botches the snap and runs for 10 yards and first down. And then I'd still be mad at him because he botched the snap. But I digress. Joe Judge and that team, he's ruined Saquon Barkley. Kenny Galladay's hurt all the time. But what a terrible sign that was. Their offensive line stinks. I thought Will Hernandez was going to be this really good guard for them, and he hasn't.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Stoutland, can we talk about Jeff Stoutland for a second? Because, and I'll bring it back to Jeffrey Lurie again. We were talking about Jeffrey Lurie. Nick Sirianni had more rope, certainly, than Doug Peterson when it came to putting together his first coaching staff. But if you remember, there was a lot of talk, and I think Bruce Feldman reported, and anybody who follows college football knows Bruce is as plugged in as it gets. He reported Jeff Stoutland was on his way back to Alabama. He was going to go back to Alabama to coach the offensive line. He loves Nick Saban, loves Alabama, but and the Eagles essentially went into Nick Sirianni and said, look, Nick, you got to keep this guy. You got this guy's different. This guy's special. And they told him, and they convinced Jeff Stoutland to stay, actually his wife. So Eagles fans should love Jeff Stoutland's wife. She didn't want to move back to Alabama. Boy, I've argued he's the MVP of this team. And it's a little bit when I started hyperbole. It's not hyperbole anymore. It's unbelievable. You go the 1985 Chicago Bears, before you got on, Jeff, they had Walter Payton. They had Walter Payton when they were doing this. I'm getting all choked up.
All-time leading rusher at one point. Miles Sanders ain't becoming the NFL's all-time leading rusher.
He's not Walter Payton. He's not Walter Payton at all. Jordan Howard was on the practice squad for the vast majority of the first half of the season. We're down to the 5th and 6th guards. You mentioned Will Hernandez. I went to Monday night because the Bears, and I told this to Jody, Jeff, and I want to get your thoughts. Akeem Hicks just destroyed that offensive line, which has a first-round pick at center, a second-round pick at left guard, a first-round pick at left tackle. They can't block anybody. Jeff Stoutland gets Nate Herbig and Sua Opeta. They don't have Brandon Brooks, Isaac Seumalo, Landon Dickerson, Jack Driscoll. Oh, they run for 238 yards. How is he not the MVP of this team?
That's it. And, John, you know what? You brought up exactly my point. I'm thinking to myself while watching the Bears-Vikings on Monday. I'm thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, the Vikings invest all these resources in their offensive line to protect Kirk Cousins. The only reason their offensive line is competent is because Kirk Cousins knows how to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, look what the Falcons have done. Caleb McGarry, Lynch, Chris Lynch. I can't even remember their names.
Chris Lindstrom, yeah.
Chris Lindstrom. Like, all these guys, they invested high in, and they're not any good either.
Andrew Thomas, the Giants. First round, top 5 pick, second round pick. These teams can't block anybody. The reason Russell Wilson wants out of Seattle is it because he's been playing behind a bad offensive line his entire career.
That's what I don't get. Like, I wish the Eagles would sell this to teams to be like, oh, by the way, if you're our quarterback, you're never getting hit, ever. Like, 1 year Carson Wentz got hit. 1 year. And it's basically the same guys. They're just more developed now. Sua Opeta, Nate Herbig, Jack Driscoll. They've gotten all the playing time from last year, and they know how to play in the NFL, and you got to give Jeff Stoutland credit for that. This guy turns garbage into gold. To quote Mark Zumoff, we think Sua Opeta, oh man, they're going to struggle, and I'm like, oh wait, that's right, Jeff Stoutland.
You put a lot of credit. You put him on the New York Giants or the Atlanta Falcons or the Seattle Seahawks, on all these teams that can't find an offensive lineman to save their lives. He's not a player, period.
Yeah. Probably not. Let me ask both you guys a Stoutland question, because he, like almost every good coach I've ever known, would love a game like last night, because not only did the guys do what he taught them to do and the success was there, the production was there, but also there were a couple of mistakes which give him a coaching moment so that he can get on guys' cases. Opeta took a bad holding penalty, pulled the guy to the ground on a play that was setting up to be really successful, and took him backwards. And Mailata, I'm sure both you guys saw it on TV last night. Did you see his hold?
Oh, that was bad. Yeah, that was like a bear hug.
He bear hugged the guy. Yeah. Now, Mailata's still a relatively young guy, but he's not a rookie. He's been on the bench for years. He's finally getting his chance to shine, and he's doing it playing like a Pro Bowler. He wrapped both arms around the defensive
And by the
player.
way, that was on a 4th and 1 play, and Jordan Howard converted, and he was downfield. He had long converted the first down. That was a really bad penalty. Sometimes you forget Jordan hasn't played the game for a long time because he's so good. It's funny to me with officiating, because everybody hates Tony Correnti, and Tony was the official last night. And, Jody, you probably had the best view because you're watching it on TV. I don't know how many. Every replay they showed, that was a penalty. Yeah, that was a penalty. Yeah, that was a penalty. So you can blame Tony Correnti or whoever, but that was old. The Sua was a hold.
Did a good job last night.
Yeah,
they absolutely did a good job.
By the way, guys, Mark Sanchez was as bad of an analyst as he was a quarterback. Oh my! How does that guy get a TV? I'm sorry, I don't like to criticize too many people, but You mean to tell me like there aren't better like former players that can do this? Like JAKIB Talib's really good. We can't get Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson one week. Like,
Well, it was Tuesday night. I imagine it was different, but I don't know. But I luckily I don't have to watch that stuff. You know, when I do watch football, I don't pay attention. Other than Kevin Hart, I love Kevin Harlan. I think he's phenomenal.
Is he with Ross now on Westwood One, or are you talking like?
Yeah, he does Westwood One.
They use rotating guys on Westwood.
Oh, do they?
You know who did the game Monday night? Jaws.
Yeah, I saw Jaws.
Kevin Harlan and Jaws. So they use Warner does games with them. A bunch of guys rotate in and out on Monday
I think
night.
Kevin still lives in. He might still live in me. He used to do the Timberwolves games back in the day.
You know who's a good crew to listen to? And they barely do games, but they're doing the Christmas night. Joe Davis and Kurt Warner, because Joe Davis normally does baseball, but I guess NFL Network gets him to do like those Saturday games. Him and Kurt Warner are pretty good.
As a matter of fact, I tweeted this last night. I was going to bring it up. Thank you for beating me to it. Kevin Kugler, not bad. He's been a radio studio guy forever. They make him into a play-by-play guy. I thought he called a good game. Mark Sanchez couldn't have been worse.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't.
Maybe it was because he's an ex-Eagle and he's an ex-Redskin. They thought he'd bring something different to the table.
Ex-Cowboy, he's an ex-Bronco, he's an ex-Jet. Well, we all know what he did with the Jets.
Terrible. He was absolutely god-awful last night. All right, Jeff Kerr, 5 days away. Eagles in good enough position to just roll the Giants this Sunday down at the Link?
They should. They should be 8-7, and hopefully the Rams do their thing and take care of the Vikings. And I think the Saints are going to have a lot of trouble against the Dolphins. The Eagles may be the number 7 seed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints aren't winning 4 straight games with Taysom Hill playing quarterback. I don't care what the schedule is. Ain't happening.
Yeah, they're going to find a way to lose to like the Falcons or the Panthers down that stretch. I did the Bills-Panthers game Sunday. I had to pivot, obviously, with the Eagles. If the Panthers could have thrown the ball better, and I don't know if this is more of Cam Newton or just – I don't know why they fired Joe Brady, but they had a shot to beat Buffalo. It was just they could run the ball. They played solid defense. It's just Kansas doesn't have an arm anymore. But I don't know.
Matt Rule's another guy who, he's got the big contract, the massive thing. I don't think they're going to fire him, but things are not going well in Carolina. You can't find a
quarterback. I don't know what they were thinking with Darnold. I still don't get that answer. I don't know why they brought Cam Newton back. And Panthers fans want him back next year. And they're like, oh, it's not Cam's fault. I'm like, well, he's not helping you win either.
No, it's Cam's fault. Oh, yeah. You might as well go with P.J. Walker at this point.
Cam's not making him any better. Jeff Kerr, good stuff. Appreciate you coming on board. We'll talk to you next week, brother.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Jeff Kerr here with us on Birds 365. In case you haven't figured it out, I don't know that we've mentioned it. This, of course, is our final show of the week. We're going to be off the next 2 days leading up to Christmas. We'll be back on Monday after the Eagles and the Giants. This show that you're watching right now will re-air. Re-air anytime you want on YouTube, but it will re-air during this time slot tomorrow. So we've got an hour to go today. Yeah, we're going to continue to talk about what they did to the Washington football team last night. Chris Franklin from NJ.com is going to join us coming up less than 20 minutes from now. But yeah, by the end of the show, we'll start to peek ahead because we're not going to have a Thursday, Friday, Birds 365. And before you know it, the Giants will be in town. And, oh, by the way, yeah, if they feel that they need a little revenge and teach Joe Judge a lesson for talking about them last year when they didn't give maximum effort, this should be a Eagles bloodbath on Sunday against the Giants. But we'll get to that in our second hour right here on Birds 365.